From Anshe Sfard, Bethel Emeth Congregation, it's time to take 10 minutes for Torah with Rabbi Finkelstein.
Welcome to our discussion of Megillah reading and women. In modern times and throughout our history, the question has always arisen, are women of equal obligation or any obligation to read the Megillah? Well, Rabbi ben Levi seemed to put it to rest. There, in the beginning of the Talmudic era, he stated, Nashim chayavot b'mikra Megillah, sha'afhena yu botones. He says there in the Gemara in Megillah, page 4a, that women are obligated in reading the Megillah because they too were in that miracle, whether they were the main characters like Esther, or they too were almost destroyed as all Jews were, and therefore they must celebrate and commemorate this miracle as well. Seems pretty clear. In fact, Rambam, Maimonides, codifies this as law that women are obligated in the reading along with men. From that perspective, women wanted to read it for the men. Well, usually in synagogue we don't usually have women reading for the men, whether of issues of kol isha, women singing, or whether somehow it's not fitting that kvod hatzibur somehow to do so. But in theory, if a woman wanted to, let's say, privately read for her husband or son, or what, in theory, according to this, where the Rambam should be fine. Rashi takes a similar view. It's quoted by the Or Zarua as well, that ksheros lahotzi anashim, they are indeed fit to read the Megillah for men as well. So, what is there to discuss? Why wouldn't a woman read the Megillah? Why wouldn't a woman read the Megillah even for a man? Problem is that there's a Bahag, the Baal Halachot Gedolot. Rabbi Shimon Kayari lived in the 10th century or so. He's an early authority for Rashi, before the Rambam. He wrote a book, Baal Halachot, the Halachot Gedolot. He's known as the Baal Halachot Gedolot, the author of the great laws, and he wrote a book called Halachot Gedolot, the Great Laws. So that book is considered very important. For instance, why is it that if you miss one day of the counting of the Omer, you're doomed, you can't count with the blessing anymore? Because that's what the Bahag said. Even though Tosfot thought that was very bizarre, strange position. The Bahag says often carries a lot of weight. So too over here. The Bahag claims that is foul. He says, well, no, a woman is obligated in the hearing of the Megillah. Oh, they're not obligated to read it, they're obligated to hear it. So then, if they're only obligated to hear it, then can they read it? Maybe they shouldn't read it for some, maybe they can't even read it for themselves. And this creates a whole new approach. He also quotes the Tosefta, the early authorities, in which it says that everyone's obligated, whereas our Talmud says that includes women. Everyone's obligated. What do you think it's referring to? It's referring to women. This text specifically says that women are exempt. However, this passage in the Tosefta, this early source, has been questioned. Firstly, there seem to be some inner contradictions. And secondly, our Talmud doesn't agree with it. We don't follow passages in the Tosefta that our Talmud specifically disagrees with. So, in fact, the Ritva, a medieval early authority from Spain, he says, Mishabeshtahi, this text is mistaken. We don't follow that. We say, Afheina yu bosones, they too were in the same miracle. We don't agree with this. Of course, he says, women don't read because women don't read the Torah in general in the congregation for it. However, they certainly can be part of the if you needed 10 men, it would be part of the 10 men. And certainly they could read for one individual woman. The Ran, also a contemporary of the Ritva, he also said in Spain around the 14th century, he says, it seems that women are obligated. He says, I don't understand this Bahag. It's not clear to me. Why should we pay attention to this Bahag? It's based on a false Tosefta. But he says, since the Bahag said it, therefore it seems fitting to be stringent according to that view. So there we have it. We have basically the Talmud says women can read the Megillah. We have a Bahag who says somehow women are only supposed to hear it, not to read it. Bottom line, if a woman was by herself, Code of Jewish law, the Mishnah Berurah, everyone agrees that if she was by herself, she would read it. If a man didn't have anyone to read it, she would read it. Because after all, according to Rashi, according to the Rambam, that would be sufficient. It's permitted. But if a woman had a choice, since according to the Bahag, she cannot read it, therefore she should listen to a man read it. And so says the Shulchan Aruch, and so says the Mishnah Berurah, and so says the Magen Avraham. All the various authorities, they follow in line with this. The Beit Yosef, the author of the Code of Jewish Law, he doesn't follow that line of the Ritva. He seems to agree with the Tosefta and somehow comfortable with this position. Now, for many modern women who are looking for more ways of being involved, certainly we want women to feel connected and involved in all aspects of Jewish life. For those who feel that it was so close, I mean, the Ritva said that it was nonsensical to follow the Bahag. The Bahag seems to fly in the face of the Talmud itself. So close to coming to that position, and yet the bottom line of the Shulchan Aruch, of the Code of Jewish Law, the Mishnah Berurah, various authorities, seems to say no, it's not for women to read. Maybe communities in which women feel so strongly about this issue that for them we say, well, maybe the rabbi would say, well, in this particular case, this woman, let's be lenient. We'll let them follow the position of the Rashi and the Ozarua and the Rambam, rather than that of the Bahag. But generally, Chaz is clear that women it's preferable for women to hear the Megillah from a man. If a woman wants to learn on her own how to read the Megillah, read it to herself, just for fun, for the educational value and understanding the relationship of one word to another and how it's supposed to sound. Surely that's admirable, and it's a good way to learn Torah in general, to learn to chant it, not just to read it. But the halacha seems to be clear. So, in the end, there are two opinions about this matter. The law, as a matter of stringency, follows the Bahag. So we mentioned the Bahag, very often major authority. He was so early in the history of halacha that very often it's very hard to disagree with him, even when it seems to fly in the face of certain other logic. Maybe frustrating times when the law doesn't accord with certain modern norms. But we always have to remember that our job is not only to run to the mitzvot, to do the mitzvot, that's a great thing, to be anxious to do mitzvot, but our job is also to follow, to be followers as well, and to understand the halachic process. Thank you for joining us here at the Anshe Sfard Beth Elameth congregation for a discussion of women and Megillah. Join us each week for the discussion of the Torah portion and various holidays. Thanks to Jason Lefkowitz, our producer. Thank you.
This has been 10 Minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein. To learn more, visit ASBEE.org.